Hello, welcome to Homeroom MLS. In this video, I'm going to walk us through how to get through the rent an apartment activity. It all starts with this document right here. This is our student course guide. And so what's going to happen is you will print one of these course guides for each student. You'll put their name here, their hour. So if they're in third hour, you'll put that there. And then you'll put your homeroom MLS password here. And I do that in marker. So all this is done in marker so that students will have this as they're working through the course. I don't let the students leave the class with this document. I collect them at the end of the hour, and then at the beginning of the hour, I put them on a table where the students come grab them. They sit down, they start working, and then as they're finishing their projects, I grade them right here. So I'll put, let's say they finished this one, I'll put a stamp here, and then I will put their points here. So let's say they got 20 points here. I'll come down to the bottom here and I'll shade in these two boxes here, adding up to 20 points. And then let's say, next week they come in and they finish this one right here. I'll stamp it. I'll put their points. Let's say they earned 10 points. I'll put that here. And then I'll shade in this box. So now they have 30 points. And so what we're doing is we're building it's a visual kind of dashboard of their progress throughout the class. It's really powerful for students. Now you can adjust this as you want, but I'm just saying that shading this in with students is really powerful. They get to see every time they do something how their grade is going up and up and up. And then lastly, we run on 10-week cycles, and so at the end of every week we shade in a box so that you can imagine as we're getting up here, they can see, wow, we got 3 weeks left. I'm at a C. Let me see if I can put my head down and get up to an A. Anyways, these two things have been really powerful in my teaching. But let's start off. So find a starter apartment to rent. So if we come to the website, Homeroom MLS, like 99% of what you're going to be doing is out of here. I am a student seller. You're going to select your school. So my school is Gordon Parks. You'll enter your password. And then here are all of our projects. So you'll see we got a project here, rent my first apartment. You got here because, you're here. So here's the PowerPoint. So for instance, if you wanted to introduce this project to the class, I got a PowerPoint here that you can use to project and talk through and that kind of thing. Here's where students are going to start engaging. First, they're going to be using a course guide or a guiding document to get them through this. And that looks like this. Now, I like to work on paper, so I'll print this document double-sided. It's 6 pages, but double-sided, it becomes 3 pages. And, students will put their name on it. And then what I do is, as they're working on this, I staple it to the back of this. So this has their name on it, their hour. Now I've stapled that document to the back of this. Every time they come into class, they just grab this paper here, and then it has their packet on the back of it. Now, this packet guides them through the entire project. And so that's pretty cool. Let's get into it. Let's see what the first step is. So it'll tell them to go to the website. It'll tell them to click on where to click on. And then, so we do that. We click here. So here's step 1, learn about your life. So I got a little scenario here. And the whole goal of this is that the students figure out how much they can afford for rent. So you can see they got a new job. They're making $22 an hour. They're working 40 hours a week. The government's going to take out some taxes right here. And then we, there's this rule of thumb in real estate where you don't want to spend over 30% of your net income on housing. And so, okay, well, we have all these numbers. the question is, how much can they afford for rent every month? And so they're going to use, I give them an example over here that they can work through. So, they can say, hey, in this case, in this example case, they work 30 hours a week, they make $20 an hour, and they work 4 hours, 4 weeks a month, obviously. So all you do is times these together and you get some number. Okay, but you don't get to keep all that money. The government's going to take some taxes, and so now I show them how to take the taxes out. That gets them down to here. So now they're left with $1,920. But again, you don't want to spend more than 30% of this on your housing. So then you do the math on that. This gets you down to the max you want to spend per month on your rent. And so they're going to do the same thing, but with the numbers that come off of this right here. So they're going to follow that exact same script, and they'll put it in. Now they'll put the number in here, and then so here it is there. Okay, but this says, hey, you did the right math, but this probably isn't enough to live on your own. I mean, how many of us can rent an apartment for $844 a month? So we're going to live with a roommate in this case. So yes, we're going to live with a roommate. Now, because your roommate's bringing, that amount of money, now we can afford almost a $1,700 apartment. Okay. So now we come back here. They've done all that. They've been able to fill this in here. Now we're on step 2, find an apartment. So let's come down to step 2, find an apartment to rent. So this gives them the instructions. We use Zillow. So they're going to go to Zillow. They're going to follow these instructions about clicking rent, putting in their max amount. So this $1,600, $1,700. They're probably going to need a 2-bedroom, if there's 2 people. So choosing 2 bedrooms. They're going to look around and they're going to find some apartments to rent. So you can see right here, they're looking around. When they find an apartment, they're going to write the address here, and then how much total rent is and how much their portion. So let's say they found a $1,500 apartment. Well, their portion of that would be half, and so it'd be $750. But this is important here. Let's go out and find a quick apartment. So I'm going to click on Zillow. I'm going to type we're in St. Paul. It's really important. You got to change it to rent, and then 2 bedrooms. So now we got all these places for rent. Let's say they pick this one here, $1,329. What we want to do, this is really important for the whole class. When it's going to ask you for the Zillow link. So that's not this link here. That's when you click into a property. So let's say we click into this property. This is the Zillow link for this property, and I'll show you why that matters. When we come here, what I've done is I've automated going out and scraping that website for that property. So if they paste that Zillow link here and say import, it'll take a few seconds, but what's going to happen is the code is going out and scraping that Zillow site, and it's going to pre-populate all of this, all of these fields here, so the student doesn't have to enter them. And again, it just takes a couple seconds because what we're doing, yep, there it is. So it pulls in that information, it pulls in a picture, and then it even does the math on it. It says, hey, look, the rent is that much, but your portion of it is this much. So again, they're going to jump back to our guiding document and they're going to fill this in. Okay, so now that they know that, now we can go out and kind of work with our budget. So that's step 3. This is kind of a fun one. We've pulled in the rent. We pulled in how much they're earning every month. So this is their income. But what we don't have is their rent. So what's their portion of the rent? We already know that it's $600. And now we have all of their expenses here for the month. And what we're trying to do is we want to walk away with at least $100 in savings. And so you can see I'm at -$4. So I'm over my budget right now. So what the students are going to do is they're going to come in here and they're going to start making some adjustments. and trying to save like $100 in my case. So for instance, some of these things you're going to want to talk to the students that they can't really change. So renter's insurance, you're probably not going to change that. Your utilities, nah, that's hard. Home internet, maybe, but I got it on a pretty low rate right now. So, things they can change, how much they're spending on clothing every month. So let's say they bump that down $50, and maybe car payments hard to change, gas hard to change. All this stuff is hard to change. Giving, they could change that. Maybe they bump this down to 250. Let's see where we're at. So we're really close to being $100 of savings. So you get the idea. They're going to come through here and make some decisions, and then they're going to just enter those decisions here. Hey, I bumped my my investments down, etc. Okay, once the students get there, now what we can do is present their apartment. And so again, they may need to import this again. If the day goes by and it's a new day, they may have to import this again to get all this information up. But once they do that, they're going to click on create presentation. Now what this does is it automatically creates them a presentation. So let's go see what that looks like. So it's just a one slide document. What's nice about this is you can both use this to have the student present their apartment to the whole class. So it's just a fun 2-minute thing to get them up there talking about their apartment, getting them up in front of class. The other thing you can do is you can hang this up out in the hallways. So now you have a class of 20 students. This is all their apartments, and so it's just a really cool way to display the student work. All right, so that's that one. Now we get into a couple interesting ones. Step 5 is to complete a rental application. So when I built this, I wanted students to actually have the feel of what it's like to fill out a rental application and some of the information they're going to need. So some students may not have employment and income and all that stuff. Work with them on it. This is not mandatory. I just want them to have the idea of, man, you're going to need some employment and income to rent an apartment. And so that it's a whole basis for conversation. If they don't have it, either they can make it up, or they can say they work at Chipotle and how much they earn, or they can, you just skip it. It doesn't really matter. Rental history, a lot of them are not going to have rental history, but you can tell them that it's an important thing to have rental history, and this is the information you'd need. Personal references, emergency contacts, whether they're going to have pets, vehicles, etc. And then again, by the way, between us teachers, this information goes nowhere. So it's not like if they put in a signature, this is going to get sent anywhere. It's purely demonstration purposes. I want the students to be able to get the feel of filling out a contract. Okay, and then hey, the very last step is knowing your rights as a renter. This one has been so cool to run with my students. The lease agreement is here, but look at this. I also have it at the bottom of this document. So here is the lease agreement, and it's super interesting to read. So I have the students read this, and then there's a few questions they have to answer. According to the lease agreement, how much written notice must a landlord give before entering the tenant's apartment? That's in there. That's in the lease agreement, and it's 24 hours. And so they have to come through here, and if they get it wrong, it'll just flag it a little bit. Again, this between us teachers, this goes nowhere. So just know that. This is just a way to kind of, check that they're reading it, etc. Hey, the big thing is this. Now here's the scenario. The students have been renting an apartment for 6 months. 3 days ago, they came home to find that their landlord had entered their apartment without notice. You feel this is an invasion of your privacy, and you want to protect your rights. So what they're going to do is they're going to write an email to their landlord. Now this is important. We're teaching them how to write a professional email. This right here are the tenets, the elements of a professional email. That you identify the correct recipient, you clearly state the issue, you provide evidence, you request a resolution, and you maintain a professional tone. So they're going to, with that in mind, they're going to come down here. They're going to select their school. They're going to write their name. So, student X. And then their email address. So student at school.com. And then they're going to put in their subject line. So this could be like entering apartment. Now they're going to start writing their email. But what I've built here is some AI. I've built AI into this to proofread their email. So let's say, for instance, they say, "Hey, you entered my apartment without asking." Now, if we proofread this, you can see that the proofreading goes through these elements here, and it decides whether they've covered that or not, whether they've identified the correct recipient, stated the issue clearly. And you can see, obviously, mine are all flagged. So what they have to do is they have to come through and they write a professional email, they proofread it, or the system proofreads it, and then once they get green on all of these elements, they can send the email. Now this is what's cool. That email gets sent to you as the teacher. And so it's going to look like this. So this just got sent to me. It says, "Hello, landlord. I'd like to ask you about an incident that happened 3 days ago. It looks like you entered my apartment without notifying me beforehand. Our lease agreement says you have to give me 24 hours notice prior to entering the apartment. Moving forward, I will need that notification. Thanks." So you can see that that's a professional email. And we got there because this proofreader guided them to it. It gets emailed to you, so you have some verification that they finished it. And then, let's go back to the guiding document. And then you can come to this grading rubric and you can grade them. Now, the way I've set up my grading rubric is a little bit unorthodox, but I think it's powerful. I have must-haves and be brilliance. A must-have is all the things you need to do in this project. So student calculated their max rental amount, student found rental property, student created their budget, student completed their rental application, and student wrote their landlord an email asserting their rights, okay? So this all are must-haves, and it'll earn you a B. If you finish all of those, it'll earn you a B. Then the students ask, well, how do I earn an A? Okay, well, you got to be brilliant. How do we be brilliant in this project? Well, that the student actually presented their rental property. So, for my students, they get up in front of class and they give a 2-minute talk about how they found this property and what they like about it, etc. And so then you grade them here. So obviously, like, let's say they got 20 points on here. Then you come back. Remember, we have this document here. You come back here, and I would literally, with a marker, I'd shade in this box and I'd shade in this box, or have the students do it. They love doing it. They love seeing their grade go up over time. Well, hey, so that's the first project. It's a fun one. You might be asking, well, hey, if this is a real estate investment class, why are we learning how to rent an apartment? It's powerful for 2 reasons. Number one, in a year or 2 or 3, they're all going to be renting apartments, and so we're giving them some exposure and some ways to think about it beforehand, which my students find really powerful. The second thing is this. They're going to be landlords. So for instance, in this project here, House Hack a Duplex, guess what? They own a duplex in this one. They're going to be renting out one of the units. And so now, because they went through this, they're going to understand what a lease agreement is. They're going to understand what rent is. They're going to understand all of those mechanics from a renter's perspective, which helps them understand this project much better. So that's why we start with this one. it's going to play out in several different projects as we move forward. Look, they're going to create their own lease agreement at some point. And so that's the fun of it. Anyways, hey, if you have questions, know that you can email homeroommls@gmail.com, and we can continue supporting you as you work through this.